Now that this young adult novel crap is all over, I can get back to my real job. What's shakin', my cool cats? It's your favorite host reporting live from this little city of Delorenze, where everything is made in the shade. So you might just want to stay put where you are. Your safety is not guaranteed in other places, my friends, so if you're out to get your kicks, make sure you leave home with your lucky strikes, some cash, and maybe that switchblade your mama doesn't know you have. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to Fat City. To all you Clydes and Daddy-O's who've stuck with me all this time through thick, thin, and many threats to our lives, welcome back to your favorite broadcast, where we talk about what's hip, what's square, and how to have a blast in this new oddball world of ours.
You're listening to the Zelda Roy Show.
Since some of you are new, I've been told that I should update you on our situation here in Delorenze. Which is dumb, because chances are that we're more interesting than where you're from, and I think it's one of those, if you have to ask, you don't need to know things. But since I have to do it, if you live under a rock and haven't heard the news over the past year, we're the town that's basically been living under a rock for the past 60 years. So we're still trying to figure out what's new and what isn't, but the big thing has been entertainment due to our old canon, the laws from before, that said that we could only consume media from before our split with other places and anything produced here in Delorenze, which means insert some better way to explain this stuff. Oh, looks like I never did find a better reason to explain it, so that's all you get. You'll figure it out. So tell me winter is coming one more time. I still don't know what you're talking about. I think I finally came up with a title for my memoir. It's called, I Heard Something Fall. Are You Okay? Chapter 1 is called, Someone Forgot to Clear Out the Time on the Microwave and It Bothers Me. Chapter 2, I'm sorry I sometimes forget to turn the lights off, but I'm not a bad person. Chapter 3, I'm not sure how that fork got under my bed, but I'm not going to pick it up. Chapter 4, I don't want to watch this documentary, so I'm going to pretend I'm asleep. And Chapter 5 is called, The Couch Ate the TV Remote. So I guess I'll stare at the blank screen for a few minutes. I'll keep all of you in the loop as I continue working on it. And now something from today's sponsor, I think. Your love is like a brush fire burning everything in its path. It's sensuous and yearning, and you are tethered to him. You think life is perfect as you sit in the bath. As your eyes fix on the tuffet, your love starts to dim. His intentions are honest, his efforts most zealous, but tie-dyed upholstery has no place in a home. You wish it were simple. Perhaps a girl has you jealous. But how do you tell him you just don't like the gnome? He loves mismatched tables and chairs in tall hutches. He collects rainbow-colored bookcases. His hat stand is made out of your 5-year-old crutches. His headboard is painted with faces. You can't find the words to tell him the facts. You want to destroy his collection. You can't stand his furniture, you'd give them the axe, but you don't want to lose his affection. Today's episode is brought to you by Circumlocution Poetry Incorporated, for when you have to give tough love, but wouldn't mind someone else doing it for you. If you can't say anything nice, read them a poorly written poem. A new section on etiquette. There are lots of new rules in this new world of ours, and it wouldn't be fair if I didn't share all I was learning. And I expect the same of you. Seriously, send me what you learn. I'm probably just going to tell you that you're wrong, but there's still a chance we can make this educational. Today we're going to talk about the subway. As my previous listeners know, there is no subway in Delorenze because really, if you can't walk or drive to where you're going, you probably shouldn't be there. But now we know that in other places, which we now have access to, there are other ways to get around, like subways. I rode on the subway for the first time today, and it was an overall disturbing experience. I mean, really, who puts tunnels underground and says, "Hey, let's put a train down here"? What are we, mole people? So for those of you who haven't ventured out yet, it might be helpful for you to learn the unspoken rules of operation, so to speak. All these notes are from my own observations because I believe that observation is the best way to discover how society works. Call this my ethnographic commentary. First, get on right away by any means possible. Find the first available seat and sit there, especially if it's right by the door. The important thing is just to get out of the way. There's no such thing as priority seating. Everyone has a fair shot. Second, this is your time to get on with your day. Put on your makeup, eat your lunchtime BLT, iron out the details of your divorce over the phone. This is your time. Don't waste it. Also, be mindful of your budget. If you've just been shopping and you have 6 bags, do you really want to spend money on a cab? Other people will understand if your Louis Vuitton needs its own seat. You do what's right for you. Lastly, if a seat opens up, you don't have to take it. Space is not a concern. Someone will shimmy under your arm if they want to get by and sit. We're all friends here, no judgment whatsoever. If you come across any helpful tips during your adventures in other places, drop me a line in my suggestion box. Please don't visit me in my office or harass me on the streets. I will walk past with my nose in the air and pretend you do not exist. Moving on. And now, a review of the Delorenze Playhouse's production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's The Sound of Music. It's the first production of unoriginal work, that is to say, work not written, mounted, and produced by Delorenzian citizens, as the new reformations to the canon give us access to outside works per cabaret approval. The film version of this work has been illegally and lovingly passed around for years in the form of a single canister of film that cuts out during the wedding scene, so it's nice that we can finally appreciate this great contribution to theatrical history without projecting it on a mysteriously stained bedsheet in someone's basement, and with an actual ending. However, appreciate is a very loose term when applied to this particular production of The Sound of Music. I use appreciate here to describe my enthusiasm for existence, and not for application to longtime artistic director Kenneth G. Fabio's vision of the show. Mr. Fabio and I have tread on tepid waters, since he did not cast me in his production of the beloved Delorenzian Christmas musical, The Balloon Propaganda, as a child. As I am the only cabaret-sanctioned arts reviewer, he has become increasingly displeased at my consistent decision to broadcast my reviews, good or bad, after the production actually closes. I'm not advertising. I am reviewing. I review lots of things, like Mr. Fabio's balding, thinning hair, which he insists on growing out into a long, brittle imitation of Benjamin Franklin's tresses. And he waddles. Sir, please pick up your feet when you walk. We can hear you pacing in the back of the house during the show, and it is not conducive to a good artistic experience for the audience. As for the production itself, the hills are alive, and the Alps have wrinkles. Because they did. They needed to iron their backdrop. Someone clearly folded it up, shoved it in a box, and later decided they needed to hang it up and air it out to get rid of the mothball smell. There's no other excuse for the enormous fault line running down the mountain unless the Alps are about to erupt, and I'm not familiar with that version of the story, even if it would keep things interesting. The abbey looked like a dungeon with a giant picture of Jesus, and there was never any shift in lighting to indicate the time of day. Why did so many scenes take place on the terrace, and why didn't anyone keep the squeaky terrace gate from swinging open every 5 seconds? We recently discovered that WD-40 is a thing, so it's imperative that we use it. And there was a large ramp to the Alps at the end of the performance. If any of you find a mountain that easy to climb, please let me know. If it's that effortless, I think I'm going to take up hiking. I've never been on a mountain before, but I hear they're nice. The costumes were ill-fitting, ill-conceived, and illness-inducing. The nuns were wearing garden hats, and whoever stuck Maria in that unflattering apron of a dress should try it on and look as pregnant as she did. Maria herself was far too old for the part. No one believed her beginning, "Look at me! I'm a young, dreamy maiden in a pastoral setting," spin for a moment. The mother abbess had a lovely voice, but that was about it. I can only describe her as that girl you work with, who has a higher position than you because she knew someone, but really wants to hang out with you at work parties because she's your boss, but she also wants to be your friend. She's 10 years younger than she should be, and far, far too eager. The cute children improved things a little, but they were too modern and bitchy, almost like those Disney sitcoms I watched for research purposes only, just missing the laugh track and age-inappropriate clothing. Friedrich had some wonderful falsetto, though, and I appreciated Gretel's distinct choice to portray the character with a knowing, "My mom is selling candy in the lobby and I'm trapped on stage" air. A very distinct choice for such a young actor, and it made her memorable. One of the kids, and I could never figure out which, consistently screamed instead of sang, so that was weird. So here's the big thing. I never understood why Max and Elsa didn't just do the backseat bingo. You'd think they'd realize that Georg didn't love either of them, which is a shame because they were the only two who could actually sing. Even if Max was a 17-year-old and Elsa was the director's aging wife, and only got the part because she threatened a divorce. Seriously, their chemistry was wonderful. All of their scenes were in the same location, so I started titling their interactions Max and Elsa's Fun Times on the Terrace in my head. You'll notice that I haven't said much of the captain, and that's because he clearly was never captain of anything, except that paisley smoking jacket he strutted around in during Act 2, and what I think is an East Boston accent. Maybe. I'm just going off of a Matt Damon movie I saw last week. Matt Damon is such a flutterbum. To top things off, the conductor was very distracting. The poor guy has a mane full of wild curls that just flailed half a beat behind the tempo, and his gangly marionette arm seemed controlled by some unseen higher being. This show has already closed. You can't see it. Good for you. You didn't want to. And now, it's time for one of my least favorite segments, Unwanted History Lessons. Unwanted by you, unwanted by me, but cabaret mandated. The canon rules that any mass-produced media must fulfill a certain educational quota, so if we're following the rules, we're at least going to do it my way. Today's lesson comes from the endless abyss of useless and user-generated information regarded as Wikipedia, and it's on the subject of the World Recreational Scuba Training Council, or WRSTC. Here's the first paragraph of the article. The World Recreational Scuba Training Council was founded in 1999 and is dedicated to creating minimum recreational diving training standards for the various scuba diving certification agencies across the world. The WRSTC restricts its membership to national or regional councils. These councils consist of individual training organizations who collectively represent at least 50% of the annual diver certifications in the member council's country or region. A national council is referred to as a RSTC, Recreational Scuba Training Council. What the hell did I just say? This paragraph alone gives me quite a lot to work with. Let's start with some clarification. Scuba, while admittedly a fun, quirky word to say, stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. What started out as an acronym has become an honest-to-not-goodness word, much like hundreds of other inane words made up by teenagers who think most words in the English language could benefit from being significantly shorter. Variations of underwater diving have been around since early civilization, also according to Wikipedia. I'm placing my trust in this research as it seems to hold a lot of weight in the outside world. As for the acronym itself, I suppose underwater breathing apparatus is self-explanatory, and I'm going to wager a guess that the self-contained aspect refers to the method of breathing and not to the diver's emotional fulfillment from being by oneself. I really don't think it's that existential of a process. Now, let's get to the essence of today's history lesson. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being vague, unsatisfying, and generating little to no interest, and 10 being absolutely razzes my berries, I'd give the WRSTC's title a 3. I'm willing to look the other way in terms of their use of the word council when clearly there were other possibilities of words to use. Commission, assembly, panel, brain trust. Personally, I'm a supporter of brain trust. Committee, advisory board. I mean, come on. The World Recreational Scuba Training Brain Trust really kills me. Look at Delorenze, for example. The governing body was supposed to be the cabinet, but someone mistyped it as cabaret in the records, and we liked it so much that we kept it, because we're hip like that. The phrase Scuba Training Council gives me the image of a bunch of stuck-up hoity-toities in goggles and snorkels and powdered wigs sitting around a polished mahogany table passing judgment on who exactly wears the mask better. And what exactly is the recreational referring to? Is the WRSTC a group of nautical nerds who band together to train other nautical nerds for recreation? Is this education process of teaching a human to breathe in a giant fish tank a kind of hobby? Or is the training for those who scuba dive for recreation? The placement of the word recreation is quite controversial, at least for me, and frankly could do with some editing. Perhaps a group of average citizens who recreationally enjoy proofreading could help out the WRSTC. I would now very much like to stop saying WRSTC, and I have, successfully, as of 5 seconds ago, fulfilled the educational quota, so here's hoping you learned something today because I sure didn't. We're not going to call this next segment gossip because we're not gossiping. We're just talking about people in our little community without verifying the information first. It's more raw and probably more accurate than anything you would ever hear on the news, so let's call it current events. I like that. I'd like to start by giving a shout out to Margaret and Gary living it up in Disney World because they discovered that Disney World is, in fact, a thing. I hope you guys are having fun in the sun and that you're open to the fact that Disney kept making movies after Cinderella. If you could work on getting your mail forwarded to your new address, that would be great because there are only so many issues of AARP that I can use for my papier-mâché projects. Margaret and Gary are my grandparents. So yeah. Last week, Brian Mercator, regrettably eligible bachelor since his wife, June Lennox Mercator, was murdered 3 years ago, attended a small get-together at his sister-in-law, Valeria Lennox's bar, where she gave a performance. This is the first time Mercator has been spotted at a public event alone since the death of his wife. Though Mercator has managed to avoid public events for the most part over the past 3 years, he is usually accompanied by a mysterious Dr. S. Barlow to any inescapable society functions. Kate and I have been friends since we were children, and even I don't know much about Dr. Barlow. I mean, he's obviously a doctor of some sort, but I don't know what kind. I heard someone say he was a paleopathologist, but that's obviously made up. Many of the Delorenzian young, single population took this as a sign that maybe Mercator is ready to get back to the submarine races, to which I say, ice it. That's doubtful at best. But still, is Mercator ready for love? Or is Doc Barlow just far too busy studying ancient dinosaur diseases to spend time with his best friend? I asked Valeria if she had any comment on seeing her brother-in-law out and about, and unaccompanied, for the first time since her sister passed away, and she just sent me a note laced with lots of words I can't say on the air. I mean, I'd like to, but the cabaret has some opinions on her idea of where I can put but I can't say it on the air. Valeria, if you wanted to go out for drinks and talk about other people, you should have just said so. We'll bash ears later. Robert Faraway, known in Delorenze as Bobby the Jimmy, the town's token Jimmy Stewart impersonator, was imprisoned last night for resisting arrest. Bobby the Jimmy was asked repeatedly to extinguish his cigarette while enjoying his $5 footlong at a local Subway, and after continuous refusals and an impromptu recitation of a poem about his dog, the police were called and Bobby sent to lockup overnight. His bail was set at $50, but by the time anyone realized the distinct lack of stuttering in the neighborhood, he had already been released. Here's my thing with Bobby the Jimmy. Has anyone actually bothered to ask him if his stutter is a purposeful Jimmy Stewart impression, or does he actually have a speech disorder? I don't support making fun of people with disabilities, and I think the implication that we're laughing at someone with a speech issue, or even that he's purposefully using in this impression for laughs, raises some questions. Something to think about anyway. Kate, you still have my copy of It's a Wonderful Life, and I'd like it back before our annual enlightening and/or uplifting film festival. Horace Applebottom, founder of Delorenze's Culinary Appreciation Society, the Applebottom Feeders, has announced his engagement to Lori Withers, head cashier at the convenience store between the gymnastics center and the barbecue restaurant. No, not that one. The one on 2nd Street with the green roof. Yeah, that one. This will be Horace's 3rd marriage, his previous 2 wives suffering sudden, tragic deaths from anaphylactic shock as a result of severe food allergies. The couple is registered at Montgomery Ward, Woolworths, and Circuit City. Best of luck to Horace and Lori. I always like answering your questions. Or I did before our fair city decided to go all Les Miserables and rebel, albeit a little more successfully. And even though it's been, 3 years? I like routines, even if predictability is boring. So I'm going to completely ignore all of the listener submissions from the hiatus and start from scratch, because it's a new day and a new Delorenze. Our first listener contribution for today comes from How to Eat Cheese. Hey Zelda, I just started listening to your show and I think it's epic. Could you tell me what your opinion is on the Harry Potter series? Because I think you'd probably have some cool stuff to say. Well, How to Eat Cheese, I have many opinions. My first is an opinion on your name because it confuses me. Do you not know how to eat cheese? I never considered that to be terribly difficult, but perhaps there are multiple techniques in cheese consumption of which I am not aware. This is entirely possible, as I only recently discovered that there is more than one way to consume an Oreo, and one's chosen method of consumption has actually been the downfall of hundreds of relationships. I'm most definitely of the it all ends up in the same place camp, so I can't quite see the importance of Oreo ingestion type segregation. Perhaps it's a cultural thing. Regardless, I assume you enjoy cheese. My second is your use of the word epic. I'm certainly no Homer, but I do appreciate the compliment, however exaggerated it may be. As for Harry Potter, I have a plethora of opinions. The main being how such a harrowing tale of child abuse and what is clearly a young boy's fantasy of a life outside his cold-hearted family in which he is the most magical, famous boy alive could be considered some of the best children's literature of the period. And our final guest submission for today comes from... I'm not sure I'm reading this right. It's the number 2, letters K-E-W-L, the number 4, and the letters S, K, O, O, and L. Too cool for... Oh, I get it. Thank you for butchering the English language. As if we don't already have enough problems in the world, Too Cool for School says, Yo, Zelda. I've never listened to your show, but a buddy of mine did once, and he showed me a pic of you from Google, and I think you're pretty hot. Wanna go out? Text me at... Okay. I'm not going to read your phone number over the air, as that is breaking about 4 different security protocols, not to mention is just obnoxious. My dear Too Cool for School, there are so many problems with your request, so to save precious time, I will just list the most pertinent ones. Number 1. Learn how to spell. You literally have the information of the world at your fingertips, so you can spare some time for spell check. I hear there are apes for that. I understand that to mean sort of computer program. Number 2. Learn the concept of linguistics. Again, the whole wealth of knowledge thing. Number 3. Do not request the company of a woman you have never met, and certainly do not do so in any way other than in person. Lastly, number 4. Just know. If you have any questions Too Cool for School, feel free to contact me again, and perhaps we can set up a meeting to discuss your complete lack of etiquette and research skills. This will by no means be a date. I'm not looking for anything right now. I'm too focused on my career. That's it for today, my cool cats. Thanks for tuning in. You can catch me next whenever the cabaret decides it's chill for me to broadcast again. For my fellow Delorenzians, check out the community bulletin board in Town Square. The one next to Town Hall, not the one next to the police station. For all you other beatniks, I'm working on a website. It's more complicated than I thought, so don't have a cow if it's not up immediately or if it's just a bunch of letters and numbers. I'm only human. See you later, alligators. This is Zelda Roy, signing off.
The Zelda Roy Show is written and produced by Rosemary Booker and Claire Kitten, who both have strong opinions about bagels for future reference. The voice of Zelda is Claire Kitten, music by Rosemary Booker. Check out our website at zeldaroy.com, where you can send us any questions or comments and sign up for our mailing list. Thanks.